Welcome to another episode of From a People Perspective, a show hosted by Martin Hawk. Today's guest is Chengeer Lee, a talent leader and principal at Resonance, whose approach to performance goes far beyond the usual playbook of hiring metrics, productivity hacks, and career ladders. Chengeer's career has been shaped by a relentless focus on learning fast, doing the inner work, and questioning the assumptions that keep people playing small. In this episode, we explore why metacognition, the ability to observe and understand your own thinking, is one of the most important skills a person can develop. We talk about how coaching and self-understanding can unlock a level of performance that tactical skills alone never will. And we get into the role of spiritual growth, ego, and conscious leadership, including what changes when you stop treating your job title or career path as your entire identity. This podcast is brought to you by the People Group. We're on a mission to economically empower people leaders. By joining our community, you'll gain access to career opportunities, a network of over 6,000 modern people leaders, and exclusive tools and resources. Learn more at thepeoplegroup.com.
Here's the problem with most HR data. You have it, you just can't do anything useful with it fast. HR teams spend 70% of their time on admin, not strategy. Rippling built their AI on one unified data model. HR, IT, finance, payroll, all connected. Ask it a real question, get a real answer. No canned responses, actual live data from your company. And yeah, it could take a picture of a whiteboard and turn it into a report. That part's real too. Rippling, built for people ops teams who are tired of the gap between knowing and doing. Rippling.com.
One. All right. Chili Goose and Silly Goose in the house.
What's up?
This is way too informal for my podcast. Usually I'm like, hi, welcome back. Thanks for listening to another episode of From a People Perspective. I'm your host, Martin Hawk. And today I've got Chengeer Lee with me. Welcome to the show, Chengeer.
Thank you so much. Happy to be flying around and landing in the right place in the right moment.
So this is a fun podcast. All the podcasts are fun, but this is fun because I know you. I've worked with you. You're a friend, and you are a person to be reckoned with on LinkedIn and in the recruitment world, and so many stories. I think the first place we should start is why are our names Silly and Chili Goose? Can you share? Do you want to share that story?
I think this is my story to tell. I think this is something you need to share.
Really?
I don't even remember at the point.
I think I just accidentally called you. You were doing something, and I'd been in parent mode for so long, just in general, still adapting to the lack of sleep and everything. And you had done something, it was silly, and that was the word that came to my mind, and I called you a silly goose, but it was on a professional level because we were working together. So it's just like, when do you tell the people you work with that they're a silly goose? Never. And it's just stuck. That's my understanding of the story. I'd love to get your take on it.
My understanding of the story is that before meeting Mr. Martin Hawk, I didn't even know the word meme, what it means and what it exists. And then one day, I probably have done something not very intelligent, but I received a video from you where this little goose playing Live on Polka, and there we go.
That's fair.
Since that moment. So,
yeah, interesting. Yeah. Okay, so let's dive into it. I want to get a proper understanding for the audience on who you are, where you came from, what your story is. We've already done the icebreakers in terms of silly gooseness, but yeah, walk us through your background. Walk us to how you got to where you are.
Oh, the Chengeer Lee pitch and story has been polished so many times, I guess. But originally, I've started as a soup of things. I'm originally from Kazakhstan, born and raised. I'm Korean. I guess I'm third generation there. Now first generation Canadian because I got my passport last year. Yay, go Canada.
Woo!
And But yeah, like I've been since a very little age, I guess, very drawn to just reading and absorbing stuff. My grandmother was that brilliant chemist, and she thought I'm going to become one, so she was nurturing me in that way, carving the path of science for me. I got into academia, spent there 10 years, was a researcher in my past life, chemistry, chemical engineering, material science. Again, finally, I got fed up with that stuff. I realized that, yes, science is cool. At that time, I was doing PhD, and I realized that, hey, like I love pain. Like, why don't I start a startup? And that's what I did. Chewing glass for a couple of years, that was a fun journey. But at the end of the day, yeah, wrong place, wrong universe, or maybe the right one, but got all the experience, but startup didn't take off. And yeah, prior to that, also lived in Canada for a little bit. So I promised myself to come back. And in 2019, I immigrated properly. Had the first role with a nonprofit organization helping people find jobs, and that's how I got immersed into. I didn't know what the job developer, so to speak, is, but that was a weird form of recruitment on the other side when you like pitching clients into the businesses. And yeah, and did a contract with them. I was on the streets for 111 days, and Mr. Martin Hawk scooped me from them and saying like, "Hey, like, why don't you join me and like then build this crazy place called Caseware?" And I rejected him, but that's a whole different story. But finally, finally, I joined him, and yeah, it was a wild COVID times. I still remember.
Yeah.
Happy to tell that story too. That was a fun one.
Yeah. Help me. Let's double click on how you get a job as a career development person without necessarily having any experience as a recruiter or as a job developer or in that role. As like that, of everything you've said, and you know, I'm privy to a lot of those stories, so that's that. But everything you've said, that's the most interesting part I want to double click on very quickly.
Yeah, totally. And as I said, I lived in Canada before 2009, 2011, lived in Regina, lived in Montreal, worked in McDonald's, sold coffee, was a cashier, selling, like washed a lot of floors. So that was fun. But came back home, finished my master's. I realized Canada changed me. I need to move on. I went to do my PhD in South Korea. That was 6 years. And then when I arrived to Canada, I again, as I said, I promised myself to come back, and I came with like 10 grand on my account, nothing but dreams and like no plan whatsoever, like, and just like steel balls. I'm gonna make it happen. And actually, it was right about this time, right, October 6th, we landed. So it's been 6 years now in Canada, and got very, very lucky. I think luck is very important, but got my job in first 40 days. I think went to all the YMCAs of this world, got all the employment services. They were not super helpful, but like in one of those, there was a career fair, and I showed up there again as usual, groomed up, dressed up, resume in my hand, and I think there were like 350 plus people, super crowded, super noisy. They were planning probably to host like about 100 folks. And of course, there are some employers there that didn't accept even resumes, and a lot of very angry people from all over the parts of the cities. And I was like, before I leave, and I see like all these people around, running around, organizing the event, they were speaking Russian. I'm like, I'm going to go give them a peace of mind before I leave. And like, hey, people, like, you know what? You can organize this better. And the lady's like, okay, shut up. Hold on. Like, are you looking for a job? Give me a resume. I give her a resume. She's like, interesting. Stay here. She leaves, comes back with another lady. Another lady looks at my resume. Interesting. So you're looking for a job? Come for an interview. And so that was fun. And yeah, like I showed up and like two interviews. I bought a suit for myself, which I don't never use. But yeah, like 2 weeks later, I had an offer. That was my first job, 50 grand. I was a workforce specialist, aka job developer. The funny thing is that probably like 5 months, 6 months later, I asked them, why me? Why did you hire me? You had like so many options there. And they said, out of 300 plus people, you were the only one who came and talked to us. So I guess that's where like the luck connects with the luck that you create yourself.
Yeah, I was going to call that out. I'm like, you're not one person to rely on luck exclusively. So I'm glad you made that distinction. And from there, what would you say you learned in that? Like, you didn't spend a ton of time there, but what would you say your biggest takeaway from that experience was as a job developer? Because effectively as a recruiter, you're on the other side, right? So curious to get your take on that.
I think overall it was just a very insightful time. Like I built all my recruitment muscles that I then used in talent acquisition game. But first of all, like I came here, I came to Canada. I thought I have no skills. Like I have all the soft skills, but like anyone knows how to Google, anyone knows how to talk to people, anyone knows how to read stuff and like communicate. But apparently not everyone. And this has been my craft, like sharpening there. But it was very insightful time because you were playing very challenging game. I had some candidates who are like 65 years old and have like 1.5 years of experience, and you need to place them. And I've called every single dental clinic in the city, I think, but finally got a job for that person.
Yeah.
And it was like 25 placements in the year, and it wasn't great by any stretch of imagination. But only after I joined recruitment, I realized, oh, interesting, like this is actually has been very challenging, because now that I'm on the other side of the table and I have to play with like top 1% people, that's much easier, and it goes way smoother. And this is our journey together.
So job development was harder. Getting jobs for people was harder than finding jobs for people.
Job development is a different kind of beast, yes, because
Interesting.
people obviously they need help when they have serious barriers to employment, right? And you are that coach and champion and recruiter for them, and you're many jobs for them. But you're selling stuff. you're selling people.
Do you keep in touch with any of the people that you've placed in the past?
With many, yeah. Some of them became my coaching clients. Some of them are like crushing it in Canada. Some of them we're still friends with. I go and observe like how they develop, and yeah, it's very cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So we don't have an agenda today, but that brings us to where you are now in terms of, we've obviously been talking about it and you're on the podcast. So it's got to do with something with HR or recruitment, and recruitment is obviously one of your many skill sets. What are you up to these days? Like help the audience understand where you're at today.
So yeah, it was March, right? 2021. I think Martin Hawk opened graciously the doors for me to the world of tech and corporate Canada and talent acquisition. And this is where I've been ramping my skills for the past now 4 years. But 4 years is when you graduate the university, and I graduated that company and joined the dark side. Now I'm on the agency side. Joined one and only amazing Zahara, which I need to connect you at some point. But yeah, kudos to her for everything she's doing. She's amazing. And yeah, it's a boutique agency called Right Hand. We're actually going through a rebrand exercise. Probably not at the liberty to disclose the official name just yet, but lots of cool stuff happening. And the way she built the business, she started with a chief of staff practice. And crushed it absolutely. Made like 6 placements in the first year, 16 in the second one. Business is exploding. And she found Silly Goose. Like, hey, Silly Goose, do you want to come and join and build the chief of staff practice? And that was actually fun, because actually in real life, like that opportunity found me also in a similar way. As we found each other. Like I was posting stuff on LinkedIn, and she noticed my content. I noticed her content, and we were like, yay, fangirling about each other's stuff, and jumped on the coffee chat, and it was just an instant chemistry vibe click. Like, yes, hell yes, like I can cook some cool shit with this person. And it was almost, I don't know, like several months, 6, 7, 8 months before the actual job appeared. And when the job appeared, I reached out to her like, hey, do you need some help? Maybe I can find you someone. It wasn't even for me. And she's like, shut up, we need to talk. And it was like, boom, boom, boom. I got the job. But now living a dream and working with so many different shops, like from San Francisco, AI, tech startups, all these crazy founders, and up to like New York funds. But I worked like with fire safety company, and I worked with med spa company, like, so learning lots of stuff about Botox and injections and things like that. So it's breadth, it's depth, but very similar to management consulting style. But yeah, my bread and butter is chief of staff operators, but on the back end, again, staying dangerous generalist, doing everything product design, tech, like all the purple squirrels in the world, and purple humans doing podcasts.
So let's talk a bit about LinkedIn, because that's interesting that some of this opportunity arose from it. And I think a lot of people approach LinkedIn in a very standardized way. I've got my profile. It is my digital resume. And majority, 95% of LinkedIn doesn't do any posts. It doesn't use it as a social tool. You are obviously using it in the opposite. Anyone that follows you on LinkedIn knows that you are very diverse in your content and very hot with your takes. Walk me through your approach to that and some of the impact you've seen from taking a different approach to LinkedIn than the traditional user.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I think this is just my like foray, like how I got into this whole journey, right? As I said, like I had this startup, and like I sold it for scraps, probably like honestly, like someone in China approached me, and we sold it for like $1,000.
Yeah.
But after that, it was my baby, right? We kind of buried it, and it was a funeral, and I was in depression, and that's the time when I felt burnout.
Yeah.
True burnout. 2 weeks straight, I was just dead in my bed. Binge watching Netflix, waking up late, eating pizza, all that stuff.
What
And
shows
then
were you watching?
I don't know. I don't remember. It's just like lots of garbage, right? With no motivation to do anything whatsoever because I've been grinding 2 jobs. I tried to do the PhD thing and then startup thing. And my founder said like, hey, like you're so good with words. Why don't you start writing this stuff? Okay, cool. So I gave myself a challenge. In 30 days, I'm going to post 30 essays on Medium. I still can find the first one from 2017, pure cringe. Like I was so bad, but it was just a journey. It was this discipline. By the day 30, I published 43 essays, and 43rd just went through the roof. Like first 42, complete silence, crickets, and 43rd got, I don't know, thousands and thousands of likes, lots of traction. It was a post about meditation, how meditation changed my life, people from around the world reaching out, and I got my first signal like, hey, you're onto something here. So I started writing on Medium. I was writing on Medium, and at some point I thought like, why am I blogging for free? Like I'm supposed to write a book and publish it and become all this best-selling author in New York all times. And so that I did, and that's what Stephen King I think says, right? When he says the book that's going to change you the most is the one that you're going to write yourself. That's exactly the process that's going to happen to me. I was writing it for 2 years, rewrote it 4 times. It was complete crap in the end. But that discipline of showing up every day at the same time and deep working for 4 or 5 hours during 2 years, yes, I probably expanded my vocabulary. I learned how to use words. Probably I really improved my thinking skills, communication skills. Obviously, the better writer you become, the better speaker you become. A lot of public speaking is a lot of private thinking, and that's what you do. So I advise it to absolutely everyone. Obviously, it's a huge blast of my coaching practice that we actually learned how to, like, writing is the foundation of everything. And so when I came here to Canada, I already had that muscle, and the first attempts were very, very slow and humble, right? But I started posting, and then slowly it just snowballed, and then at some point you just become a person who cannot not write, and that's who I am today, I guess.
What did writing... I feel like there's so many different directions to go here. You still write today, obviously, and it's interesting. Like I have this fascination with words and language and the idea that, it's effectively magic because you write something down and it, yes, you say something, but I love that Alan Moore quote. But for you, like you've attributed like that 43rd Medium article. There's an act of, I think, like it takes a lot of time to write 43. It takes a lot of time to write one essay, one article, one blog post, put your thinking down. But you touched on so many different things about writing. I guess like zooming out on writing as a whole, obviously you recommend it, but what would you say its biggest impact on you has been?
Writing is physical manifestation of your thoughts, right? And the more you do it, the more disciplined and organized thinker you become. And that's ultimately the meta skill that you get hired for and you get everything done. Especially in the world of business, everything hinges on communication, right? How masterful of communication you are. And of course, communication is just a thin slice of this meta skill. But metacognition as a large meta skill is like the ability not to only have mental processes and thoughts, but actually to observe them and then reorganize them, improve them, upgrade them, all your thinking systems. That's ultimately the large bulk of it. Writing enables that. And then by extension, writing enables everything else. It enables speaking, it enables reading people, it enables orchestrating human systems and all that stuff, which actively translates into like games like talent acquisition, for example.
Yeah. Now, with the advent of AI, and writing has become this thing that you technically don't really need to do as much anymore, because you can just come up with the prompt and say, oh, write this email, make it sound friendly and professional, but ultimately say no. Say no to this opportunity, say no to this person inquiring about my time or energy or whatever. And it's obviously taking, if people already didn't write enough, which I imagine you would say is true, now there's less people writing and thinking about their thoughts and diving into these things. What's your take on what I've said?
AI is a tool, right? Just like a knife. You can cut an apple, you can stab a person. In the same thing, like AI in masterful
Jesus
hands.
Christ.
AI in masterful hands, like it can be a katana. It can be a very cool tool. All right. Like the problem begins is like how do you utilize the tool? Because some people use AI to substitute the thinking, and that's exactly what happens, right? We are actually we are very lucky to be like in a generation of millennials where we grew up, and so we didn't have technology around, so we learned all these probably critical thinking skills, like whereas the younger generations, they immerse themselves right into this, and that also enables that ability to work with AI. So are you using AI as a knife, or you're using it, or your mind is a knife and you're using AI as a rock to sharpen the knife? So that's I think the difference, right? And when it comes to prompting too, yes, you say prompting is actually extremely hard. That's why there are whole jobs as a lead prompt engineer, because in order to, like, the quality of the output is the quality of the input, the quality of the answer is the quality of the question.
Yeah.
That's why I do coaching, for example. Coaching is this art and science of questioning, right? But most folks, they never realize and fully actualize the potential of AI because of how underdeveloped the prompting skill, which is again a cognition/metacognition skill on the back end.
Can you expand on the metacognition thing? You've used it as a concept with me, and I understand it to a degree, but even just for the folks that like walk us through, even just through an analogy or a metaphor almost.
Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a short form and a long form. The short form is very simple, right? It's not just thinking stuff. Everyone knows how to think stuff, but it's thinking about your thinking, right? And the long form is you undergo a transformation, and if you just go into your direct experience and observe your life, you will start noticing that your body has been transforming. You were in the body of a little boy or a girl, right? And then the body has been transforming. You became a teenager became a student became a single young person, professional, that person married, etc., etc. Throughout the transformation of the body, you had the transformation of identity, right? You associated yourself like, okay, I'm a little boy or a girl, I'm a little child, I'm a teenager, I'm a student, I'm a single person, divorced, widowed, etc., etc. So your identity is transforming and changing. But what is identity? Identity is nothing but a story. It's just an entanglement of different thoughts and beliefs. I am blah blah blah. I am an engineer, I am a technician, I am a woman, I am a man, I'm old, I'm young, I'm fat, I'm stupid, I'm smart, etc. Like all of these just associations. So that's ultimately what identity is. So metacognition is your ability to observe that story and ultimately rewrite it. And it is a skill. It's developed skill. You can actually learn how to do it. And what I do a lot in my practice is not only coaching in order to find yourself at that point of observation and awareness and raise your awareness skill, but actually utilize all these beautiful tools like AI in order to augment your awareness. Because AI can serve as that sharp metacognitive partner, observe you without the noise, where you can dump all your noise from your mind into the system, and the system will organize it for you, but it doesn't have the hindrance and inhibition of fears, anxieties, limiting beliefs, blind spots, and all that stuff. And you can you can use AI as a metacognitive partner.
Oftentimes people are talking about watching content and then speeding it up, trying to consume more information faster at like 1.5x or 2. Like when you watch, like even just for me, like if you watch or listen to my podcast traditionally, especially if it's just me, I'm like, you need to listen to this at 2x because I am slow and I take time for my thoughts to come together. And I've noticed just during this podcast, and it's just always apparent when talking to you, the speed and wit and accuracy of the things that you're saying is so fast. Like it's funny because I'm thinking like people need to listen to this at 0.75 or 0.5 just to like slow down and consume what you're saying in a way that is like meaningful. And I think that kind of just speaks to the power of writing. It shows that you've spent so much time with words that it just comes so easy to you. Whereas like if somebody is not using that in their day-to-day practice of writing, then yeah, it's just going to show up in how you talk. It's going to show up in how you speak. It's going to show up in how you write, obviously. It was more of an observation than anything like in terms of a statement or anything like that. But you have talked about coaching a bit in the last couple of sort of rabbit holes that we've jumped down. And, you know, myself, you know, like reaching out to you and saying like, I know that you do this and, you know, talk to me about neuro-linguistic programming because I was on your LinkedIn profile and I thought I was curious. And then it opened up this rabbit hole of your coaching practice. As I think about it, and I want to hear more about it just in general, but what did you have a mentor? Did you have a coach before you became a coach? Like, how did you get to where you are in terms of, okay, I have these thoughts and frameworks and I have very strong points of view on how a person or a human can operate at such a high level. Like that was never you from the beginning. There's some foundational aspects, but like help me understand or help the audience understand how you got there.
So many directions to take here, but that's my favorite, not favorite questions. First of all, there is no how, right? Whenever people ask for how, they're seeking for prescriptions, and prescriptions is the recipe for unserious, right? And you're never gonna get anywhere. And I always say, like, if Steve Jobs wrote a book with like to the minutes saying and explaining everything that he's done, and you read the book and you follow the blueprints and you do the same thing, would you become Steve Jobs? Well, absolutely not, right? And that's common sense. Yet somehow people are still, this is a disease of our age and disease of our minds when people go seeking prescriptions. When you do that, you're actively outsourcing your agency, your ownership of your own life, and your agency of your own mind and your mental architecture, so to speak. So there is no how. What made me who I am, I have no idea. Is it like a partially nature? Maybe. Is it partially nurture? Maybe. Like there's definitely DNA at play, and there's definitely DNA in the sense of like a specific composition of spirit and mind. I've always been a truth seeker. You see that scar on my nose? Like when I was 5 years old, I hit a corner of a steel tennis table, and it was a third nostril bleeding like a fountain of blood, and I already was questioning, like, "Hi God, why you punished me?" So there was some kind of esoteric, metaphysical kind of questioning there. I've always been that. And the first phase of my life, I was actively destroying myself and got myself to a point when, like, okay, I was a drug addict, a substance addict, and a smoker and an alcoholic. Suicidal, depression was a friend. And I got myself to the state when I wasn't even like, I don't think it was like a tipping point. It more like animalistic primal instincts. If I don't start doing something, someone will find my my dead body in a dirty motel. And I started crawling and I fell, and then before I walked, I crawled, and then I walked, and then I ran, and then that's what I always say: you transform, you change yourself. There are two ultimately fuels, either from desperation or inspiration. And my journey was from desperation to inspiration. Before I learned how to inspire myself, I had to eat bucket loads of despair, right? To understand like what's the probably like stare the death in the face and use this as an advisor, right? And I know that whoever's listening to me, like, yeah, right now can think like, oh, he's like a machine gun, like 11 out of 10 is always his speed. That's not a default. That's my recruitment speed. Apparently, like, I'm so excited to be with you. So always, like, so it is my default speed right now, but my coaching speed is on another spectrum, right? It's going to be like 1 out of 10. It depends on the person who is sitting in front of me. So to answer your question, I have an answer, and it doesn't matter how Chengeer got where Chengeer is. The question is like where you are right now, where do you want to be, and like what's the obstacle on the way? And the obstacle is always there. It's always inside your head. And like once you unfold all this stuff, like once you take these stories of identity, which is like the massive stuff, the stories of the past, the stories of the future, hopes, expectations, dreams, you take it all, dissect it completely, demolish the construction, and build from the solid foundation of truly understanding who the hell you are by understanding who the hell you are not. That's when the noise will subside and you will operate from stillness, which will translate into this productivity and top world-class performance that everybody's seeking.
The prescription side of things is very tempting because, and I saw this myself, right? When we started working together, it was an interesting thing of like, oh, I'm just taking, in my mind, from my perspective, it was like, oh, I'm taking this a shot on hiring this person. My goal at that time was to hire someone quickly for the team before I even started in the role, because in my mind, that's what the role required. And that's the mandate and the urgency that was being put behind the position. So I wanted to show up really well for my new employer, my new boss, who I have a ton of respect for. We both do. And in doing so, I suppose, you could call it like a bit of an intuition, but there was also a little bit of risk. Like, what I'm trying to say is, on paper, it didn't necessarily make sense to be like, oh, I'm hiring this person and they're going to be a transformational recruiter for our team. And within 3 months, 4 months, you were already showing signs that like, this is like the strongest recruiter I'd ever worked with. And and that's my tagline. And when talking about you, is the fact that for somebody that didn't understand recruitment formally, and nobody usually does because they don't teach it in school, but you just deconstructed the roles, you deconstructed the priorities, you deconstructed all the work, and then rebuilt it yourself, in the sense that you were just, when everybody who had tried previously at the organization to place people within the company, with whether it's 1 placement a month or 2 placements a month, that was sort of the ceiling. And then you blew the roof off with 6, 12. I think there was a time where you made like 16 placements. I don't know. What was your record, as you recall?
And it was like 14, but my desk was like 25.
Yeah. So the insane levels of placements, not like, if across the board, if anybody is talking about hiring like 14 placements in a month isn't a normal thing, right? And so you having this, not fresh, like you're a seasoned recruiter now, but going back to that, and for the folks listening that are recruiters, that maybe feel like they're stuck, that do care about their profession, that do want to improve, what's the single greatest thing that's in their way from your perspective? Like, people are just doing it wrong. And if people wanted to, so like, that's where I'm talking about like the prescription, in the sense that like doing it Chengeer's way is probably not going to do it. But what's your advice to those folks to get to that place of making 14, 16 placements?
I don't do advice. I'm a coach. But like, again, as a meta principle, it's going to be all individualistic, right? But again, going into this abstraction layer and the meta layer, all my work and everything that I do as a coach is elimination of the hindrance of the noise, right? Like how people say, like, the manager's job is to hire the best people and then get out of the way. Like, in a way, like that's what you do, right? Like, you have to remove that stuff that's inside your mind that's on the way. And what's the stuff that's inside our mind that's on the way? Our worries, our past memories, all that stuff. Someone wronged me. Oh, this is something that's called childhood trauma. And I understand, like, life is tough. Like, we all get damage through it, right? But what do you do with it? It's like cleaning a house. Sometimes when you never done this work, you before dusting something, you need a shovel, and then you need a broom, and then you wash floor, and then you dust stuff. It's a lot of foundational work. Like when people come to me and say like, hey, like I've never done this before, it's the same expectation setting. You've never done this before, like you've been living as yourself for 40 years, you want me to clean up in 2 weeks? This doesn't work like that. Insight itself takes no time. That's why we have in animation this light bulb of an insight, but the integration takes work. So what I'm doing as a coach, basically giving this so-called shortcut, there is no shortcut, but what I can deliver in 60 minutes, 45 minutes is 15 years of integration of absorbing all these mental frameworks and most importantly, destroying all that noise. So that's what I do. Do this work, right? Like, and again, it's not a prescription, right? If it truly matters to you, if you truly want to understand who you really are, not like for your translation in the corporate world and career and work and stuff like that, but truly who you are as a human. What is consciousness? What is this black box of the mind? How does it really work? What is this mechanism? If the desire is truly serious and sincere, you will get it without my help. And if you get it, like everything else will fall in place. Like one of these tools which we used in coaching practice called Wheel of Life, very simple, right? People look into the health aspect first, and then they go, okay, health is good, I'm going to fix my relationships. Relationships are good, I'm going to fix my environment. Environment is good, I need to take care of my career. And career is fixed, I'm going to get money. Money I can invest into enjoyment of life and life experience, and then personal development. And in the end, there is this last little piece of pie called spiritual growth. Well, my proposition is that this is the foundation, right? You take care of that stuff, everything else will fall in place. Everyone knows about pyramid of Maslow, right? And you know that you have all these needs to feel, right? You need your food, you need a shelter, you need relational element there, and then you start thinking about self-esteem and reputation, etc. No one knows, like very few people know about Maslow's pyramid 2.0, which he released like almost close to his death. And at the very pinnacle of it was self-transcendence. And I always use this pyramid, but I invert it. Self-transcendence is this little pinnacle, that's the foundation. If you transcend the self is the inhibition. The person you believe yourself to be is the person that creates the problem. It's the person that stops you from achieving. It's the achiever himself. It's the attainer, it's the craver, that ego. I like this expression by Carl Jung too, like the first half of life, the person builds a healthy ego. In the second half of life, the person is destroying it. But destroying the ego that's been built, it's a prerogative of very rare humans. Most people, they build the ego, they live with it until the end of their life. As the ego, as the person, and they never realize who they are. And from my perspective, that's just a life wasted.
It's always funny because there's these areas that you excel in as a person, so many of them, and the few that we're talking about, one is obviously recruitment, and two is coaching and awareness of the self. And they seem so far, like recruitment is such a tactical corporate in the day-to-day realities of life, air quote realities. And then on the other hand, there's like, you need to destroy the ego, Martin. And they just seem so far and separate from each other. And it seems weird. It almost like good guy, bad guy, and you're in the same, you're embodied in the same person. Like one aspect is, people falling into sort of like the rat race in the corporate life and not being self-aware enough to know what they really want. So they just go with the flow and end up doing a job for 10, 20, 15, 5 years and not really questioning why they do it. And on the other hand, so it's just an interesting, like you hold space for both. You're very good at both of those things. How do you hold space for that?
It is the non-duality. You have to separate yourself from that self that's supposedly holding the space, from that organization of the mind and the mental architecture, and actually the awareness in which everything unfolds, right? You live as awareness, but within your mind you can construct, and that's what allows you to compartmentalize. Like Sherlock Holmes, he's using this memory palace, right? Like when you create sort of like different rooms, and you can hide your memories so that you can recall them quickly. You don't need this anymore now. You have AI, right? But you can do the same thing with the different aspects of your life. You take once you truly realize and understand that you are not the self, you are not the identity, you can take the identity, deconstruct it completely, break it down to first principles, and reassemble it in the way that you need. And you can do this with absolutely every single aspect of being. You can do this specifically within the corporate life vertical. You can, again, because most people, right, like how do they show up also, and how you live your life is actually a function of how you show up. But how do you show up at work? You have a mask, you have a persona. It's very theatrical, it's very performative at work, right? And then like my work life and my personal life, this work-life balance, it's all like different stuff theoretically, but it's all the same. Like when you say, and people ask me the same question, like how talent acquisition and coaching are related. Talent acquisition is coaching. I coach hiring managers how to hire better, because surprisingly enough, a lot of people who are extremely accomplished, extremely brilliant at what they do, not necessarily so savvy in all the human sciences and how to acquire talent and talent architecture and the nature of human mind and just human nature in general. And on the other side, you're coaching a candidate because they're going through the most important transition in their life. It's a lot of fear. It's a lot of change. How do you address that fear? How do you coach them through that fear? And at the end of the day, these are the people who are co-creating a new reality. For me, this is a reality engineering. And in order for them to co-create, they need to start seeing it from the same perspective. Like this organization and the people and the founders within this organization, they need to see the world how this human sees. And this human needs to start seeing and thinking as the founders. That's, again, metacognitive ability where it kicks in. And I'm here, the middle guy, as a facilitator, helping them to start seeing the same thing so that they could envision it and then go and create online alignment and manifest that stuff that they want to manifest together.
There's an aspect of people listening where they're just going to continue to listen for the whole podcast. And then there's probably people that have dropped off way earlier on because of the direction of our conversation. I'm sure you're no stranger to it. And there's people that are like about to check out because they're just like, oh, he's using words like metacognition and he's using words like manifest and yada, yada, yada. And I don't buy into this, or that's a little too woo-woo for me. And let's assume that there's a handful of people listening right now that are thinking that and are waiting to hear what you have to say about bringing them back and saying, no, you should listen further. This is what you should investigate. What would you say to those folks?
No, you shouldn't. Please don't listen to me. Like I don't want you to listen to me, and I don't want you to do anything in the prescriptive manner. If that truly clicks to you, like, again, also, the way I explain it to people, water boils at 100 degrees. At 99, it merely simmers. Everyone who is at 99, they just need a little tip, a little nudge from my hand, and boom, they're boiling. Everyone who is at 99, 98 and below, they are not my people. Right? They need to go through whatever the journey they need to go through in order to ripen and receive the message. Until then, my words will not penetrate them. But for those little few rare humans who, like Neo, wake up. And like, you know what? Probably like, they're still hitting the snooze button, but they already know, like, okay, something is going on. Something like the matrix is not real. I need to do something about it. That's who the message is for. The message is for those people. And the message is for those people who are ready to be conscious capitalists, conscious builders. And also, this is the job for me. This is my job. My job is to be the bridge between two. So I have a lot of different mental models around that to bridge that gap. So, for example, when I talk to techies, which is, again, obviously my larger audience, I explain to them very simple. Brain is a hardware. You were born with a brain. You have this computer. If you're lucky, you have a high-functioning brain. Your mind is an operating system. You literally utilize your mind to operate in the world. Your beliefs are like applications. You can install them, uninstall them, or you can upgrade them. You are a software developer. You have access to source code, and you can reprogram the whole mind But of course, a lot of within your mind is not your programming. It comes from schooling, it comes from parents, it comes from God knows where. When you became a teenager, you started brainwashing yourself, following blind leaders, reading books, and listening to podcasts like this. Who knows, right? And my job in this analogy is to be a QA or a debugger. My number one job is to bring all these programs to the level of your awareness. Number two job is to pressure test them. And number three, when the code breaks after I pressure test the program and it falls apart and you see the fallacy in your logic, is to be the co-pilot so that you can write the new code. And once the new code is written, new states are created, new behavior is created, new reality is created, new experience, and that's a loop. New experience creates new thoughts. So I have a lot of stuff like that, but this is how I connect it, right? And everything you do, like everything you do can be spiritual or non-spiritual. You don't need to use the word spiritual, right? It's all up to you. Whatever the stories you're telling yourself, that's your reality. If it's possible for you, it's possible. If it's impossible for you, it's impossible. Magic is right there.
Yeah, magic's real when it comes to that.
True.
Interesting. What's next for you?
What is next for me?
Yeah. What are you working on? Silly goose.
Nothing to work on. Like you get to the point when there's no you who is working on something. Like there's nowhere to go, nothing to become, and nowhere to be.
Classic answer. Classic. Yeah.
You do not control how the thoughts are pop up. If you don't control, then there is no controller. If there's no thinker of thoughts, then who is doing all this stuff? Like you're here as just awareness, observing shit's happening by itself called life. And I'm just here to observe what this Chengeer guy is doing all the time. He's sealing and he's goosing and he's creating shit and building companies and hiring people. And I don't know, hopefully living a good life, meaningful life, purposeful life, and becoming a force of change. I have some time on this planet to play the game that I want to play, to play the games that mind finds entertaining, and let the mind play the games that it needs to play. But as awareness, I'm just here to watch.
So what games does your mind want to play in the future? What is your mind working to?
Naturally, these are the only games that make sense to play. Is to number one is to build a knowledge base and to be that portal where everyone who's interested in this path of development, they can. I'm not saying like to be the Bible and the all answers in one place, but to give them a starting point. So like, okay, I want to understand how my mind works, and I want to master my mind, and by extension, I want to master my life. Where do I start? This is where you can potentially start, and I want to be the guide on that plane. On the coaching side, again, progressively working with higher players, right? People who, again, I'm no longer have an ambition to change the world, but I'm here to enable and serve people who have the intelligence and ambition to change the world. So enable the change makers, people like yourself, people who want to build cool shit with cool people, right? And then create something good in the world, create something that needs to exist, right? And at the end of the day, again, this is where we come down to concepts of conscious capitalism and conscious development, conscious organizations, self-learning, self-developing organizations. I want to see like businesses and entrepreneurship, I think, is the single most powerful vehicle of changing the world. And I'm here to enable people who are doing just that and help them not just to build companies to get profit and improve the bottom line. I'm here to build conscious organizations that, do something good. Like this is a collective reality. Everything that we do, we're just flapping wings in the world as butterflies, and it can create tsunami and tornado if we need to. We just need to flap consciously.
Flap consciously. I feel like that's where we should end this episode. Yeah.
Yeah. The silly goose goes north, chilly goose flies west, east, and both flap consciously until the end of times.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chengeer.
Thank you, Martin.
Where should people connect with you and your persona?
I'm on LinkedIn, but more the stuff that you've heard about more today, you'll find on Substack. And this is my portal. And ask Martin. He'll find me.
There you go. Yeah, I'll happily introduce you. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate the time. Appreciate you.
Take care.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're not already a member of the community, please join us at thepeoplepeoplegroup.com.